All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start the meeting. Today is April 16th. It is 7:15. Thank you very much for coming. Bob, how many people do we have on the Zoom call? 167 people. Hello, everybody at home. You missed a good meal tonight. Vitello's was the restaurant of the month, only because the other restaurant, we had a little bit of a screw up, a little mix up, so Vitello stepped in. Did you guys enjoy the food? All right. And thank you, Jane Kaplan. Stand up, raise your hand. Jane filled some very, very big shoes. Those were Jules's shoes that she gets the restaurants every month. Thank you. And she had a great helper tonight. My little son, Jonathan, is here from New York. So a lot of you guys remember when he was coming here when he was shorter than Jules. So anyway, we're gonna have the board come on up and just say hello. Jules, you come up. Jules is retired. He doesn't live in Sherman Oaks anymore. But he still is on our letterhead. He'll always be on our letterhead because we love Jules. Come on, Bob. Tom, where's Tom? Come on. John Eisen is out of town. You come up. Joan Pellico, you're not on the board, but come on up because you're our legislative contact. Say hello. Okay, go ahead and grab that mic.
Come on, Joan. I'm Bob Anderson, and I'm one of the two vice presidents of SOHA, and I'm also the chair of the Transportation Committee, and starting to have a lot of fun with that right now. And I'll be able to tell you about that next month.
Sure, Jules. I love this man.
You know, I think I spent close to 30 years with the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, and I still miss it. And where I'm at now, they still call me honorary mayor. They call me Mr. Mayor. So I'm enjoying that. And I miss all of you, and I miss the meeting. And I can't come to every one of them, but I come to as many as I can. And so thank you.
Thank you, Jules. And one of the reasons that Jules does not come to every meeting is not because he doesn't love it, but because of the Palisades fire and Pacific Coast Highway being shut down. The 101 freeway's been a mess, and so he's coming from Woodland Hills, and it takes him twice as long. So hopefully once that reopens in June, okay, move on. Jules will be here more often. Jules and I have a little Laurel and Hardy kind of a thing.
You were kidding about the 101, right?
No, I'm serious. Go ahead.
Really? Oh, boy. My geography is different than yours, but hi, everyone. Tom Glick, welcome. Chair of the Land Use Committee, and I hope you enjoy the meeting tonight. And for geography.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Larry Slade. I have the honor to chair the Homelessness Committee and was very pleased this week to find out that our tax dollars are hard at work mitigating the homeless problem in Los Angeles, and that we're going to find out much more as this unfolds, and it doesn't completely shock me, although it does sadden me, as I'm sure it does you.
Maria Calvin, and I'm the chair of the Legislative Committee. And what? Oh, vice president, I know. That's right. And co-vice president of the Sherman Oaks Homeowners. So I don't have much of an update on SB 79 that we're all fighting, but we do have a resolution that has been presented to the city. We're hoping that the city council will vote on it, and that's what we're going to push for now, because this could die a quiet death if we don't make a lot of noise. So we have written a lot of letters to the mayor and to Harris Dawson, and we got contacted today to say that the mayor has gotten several thousand emails. So all of you, thank you very much. We just started a statewide approach, so we've gotten San Francisco and San Diego and San Jose, so keep reading the newsletter. We'll update you.
So at our next month meeting, Maria's going to be chairing that meeting, and it's on it's housing elements, and it's on the housing problem that we have right now. But I just want to see it, but she's going to dial it down, okay? So it's housing legislation for dummies, I think is what she's calling it. But I just want to see an honest show of hands, and please don't be shy if you don't raise your hand. Raise your hand if you know what SB 79 is.
There you go.
Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
Hold on.
They read my newsletter.
I know. How many of you, just put your hands down. How many of you guys live within a half a mile of a transportation corridor? Okay, most of you guys. So for those of you who did not raise your hands, SB 79 will destroy your home, will destroy your neighborhood, because they can build very, very large apartment buildings right next to you. So that's a state initiative that's being processed right now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joan Pellico. And some of you know me. When I started in 2005 with Council District 5, I was the field deputy for Sherman Oaks. And I had actually gone to SOHA meetings before I started with the field office. Who knew? Now that I'm all grown up, I am now a volunteer with the most amazing people who I have watched over the years care so much for their community. All for free, nobody gets paid. They feed you, they inform you, they educate you. So I'm hoping a lot of people who are on Zoom, come on back. Would love to see you. Thank you.
Thank you for that great endorsement. But what are you doing with our group here now? Are you our legislative contact? Are you our what is your title?
Yeah, so I'm kind of the liaison to the city, and any information out there. I have kind of worked with Maria a little bit on just the in and outs of City Hall, although I have to say, what Maria and her United Neighbors' team has done is phenomenal. Please, she deserves it. So I hope to be able to give you information as I come, and if you need to contact me, just let me know.
Thank you. Kelly?
Hi, everybody. Just really quick, I'm the SOHA Beautification Co-Chair, and I just wanted to make you aware of these flyers on your table. We have a big Service Day LA event coming up Saturday, May 17th. We've got the mayor's office on board and CD4. We're hoping to get some trees planted along Ventura Boulevard. We're working with Valley Community Cleanup volunteers as well, Jill Mather. So it's going to be a big day. We'd love to have you all come out that day and help keep Sherman Oaks beautiful.
Thank you, Kelly. So collectively, I'd just like to have a round of applause for our great board of directors. So Jose and Mariana and any other field deputies who want to come on up here. So before I go to introduce these guys, I just wanted to, again, did anybody read the article that I penned on the newsletter? Just okay. So that wasn't from Matt Epstein. I wrote the article, but I wrote the article because of you guys. Because you guys call me, email me, text me about the things that I wrote about. And I've been involved with the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association now for over 30 years, either vice president or president of the association. I've never gotten so many positive just comments about thank you for standing up for us. So that's going to continue. We've got a bunch of new stuff that's going to be coming up. We're going to continue. We need a seat. We've been requesting a seat for 5 years now, and we want our community to continue to be strong. So there'll be more to come. And thank you guys here in the audience, at home. Continue to send me your emails. Continue to send me the problems that you're having. I already know about most of them, but the homeless encampments that don't get return phone calls on, the community meetings. Somebody sent me a text today about a neighborhood meeting that they do once a year, that they've been doing it for 20 years. I don't think it was Library Square. I forget who it was, but and they just wanted some chairs and some tables from the council office, and they got refused. And it's just little things like that doesn't build community. So this is a great community. Thank you guys, and I really appreciate it. So what do you got here? This is mine.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Officer Saldana. I'm the Senior Lead Officer for the southern portion of Sherman Oaks. I just want to report on the burglaries. We had, from year to date, we're down by 5% from burglaries from last year. I'm going to give you raw numbers of what year to date right now for the entire city of Van Nuys. We had a total of 243 burglaries. 168 burglaries were residential, and 75 were commercial burglaries. And out of those 243 burglaries, 13, the power was shut down on the residence or the commercial building, and 9 of them they used Wi-Fi jammers to enter the residence. There was a couple of burglaries last week on Sunny Slope and on Ventura, south of the boulevard. And one of them was a hot prowl. The suspect entered through the rear door. As he was entering the residence, one of the residents, the owner, confronted the suspect, and the suspect fled. So there was no confrontation. There was nothing taken, just a damaged door. And the other one was also they entered through the rear door and ransacked the residence and went to the master bedroom and took valuables. For the most part, a lot of these burglaries, residents are not putting their alarms on. They have alarms, but they're not turning it on. And that's very helpful to have these alarms on. At least if you're going out for dinner, at least turn it on for an hour, 2 hours when you're out. Also, if you have bushes and brush around your neighborhood, on your residence, make sure that's clear, and we have so we could kind of see what's going on, and we don't want people to be hiding behind bushes and stuff like that. So that's all I have right now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mariana Romo, and I'm your Senior Lead Officer that covers the northern part of Sherman Oaks. So I cover the Fashion Square Mall. I'm sure you guys know about the robbery that happened at the Fashion Square Mall last week. So I'm here to talk to you guys about being a good witness. Because a lot of the bystanders that were there were good witnesses. They were videotaping. They called 911. The amazing thing that they did was when they called 911, they gave the dispatcher the travel of the vehicle, whether it went eastbound or westbound, north or south. Know your directions. Know the type of vehicle that the individuals got into, how many occupants entered the vehicle, and give us a good direction of where the vehicle is going to. A lot of bystanders called 911. Unfortunately, they got away, but because of the video that community members gave detectives, evidence that was left at scene, a lot of work based on the detectives, we have identified these individuals, and we're hoping to get them soon. These individuals were also working in other parts of the city, and we're hoping that a lot of cases are, we put them together so that these individuals can go to prison for a long time based on the crimes that they have committed. So I would like to remind everyone, if in the event this happens while you're out and about at the Target, at the Costco, at the park, remember to be a good witness. Do not engage. If you can, take video of it, good pictures of it. Right away, call 911. Give us the direction of travel, what type of vehicle, if they're on a vehicle or if they're walking, and describe the individual from top to bottom. Please do not engage. The bystanders at the mall did an amazing job. They gave us good information. And again, I would like to remind everyone, please do not engage, because a lot of the times it's us that we get injured or get seriously hurt because we want to stop them. I know it's in our hearts, but let us do the job. Okay, thank you so much.
we have the best police officers. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everyone. Lindsey from the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council. I realize in all the times that I've been up here, I haven't actually told you specifically what we do in terms of things that we've passed. So I'm going to talk about our last board meeting just a few days ago, second Monday of the month, and what we adopted relative to city council files. The first one is we adopted a position to oppose city council's attempt to change the rules to add words to a prohibited words list. In other words, we want to preserve the rights of all constituents to speak freely. That's the First Amendment of the Constitution, as well as the California State Brown Act. We are working to preserve democracy and oppose authoritarian rules. That's where that one comes from. We also are supporting an investigatory effort into the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, given all of the stuff that's going on there. So what we're calling for is for a great investigation into exactly what is happening, what happened to the unaccounted funds, and if there is any embezzlement or anything like that, to refer criminal charges for that. And as well as allow the city to bypass laws in the future and contact directly with service providers. And then finally, we supported what Maria has been working toward for the past few months, really, ever since it was introduced. SONC supports the council's opposition to State Bill 79, or Senate Bill 79 at the state. So thank you very much. Second Monday of the month in this room for the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Victor Reyes, and I am proud to serve as a new field representative for Assemblymember Nick Schultz, representing the 44th Assembly District. Just quickly want to give a couple of updates. I know some of you have known me, so thank you guys. But to start, for Capitol, they're in recess, but we're happy to announce that about 12 of those proposals from Nick Schultz's legislative package introduced 19 bills. 12 of those are currently pending in the Appropriations Committee or have already made their way into the Senate. So we're happy about that. That's pretty good numbers right there. In addition to that, we're currently in recess. The Assembly member was able to enjoy some time with the family, but as soon as he got back in today, he was off to the races, right? So he spent some time with the Glendale Unified Mobile Makerspace ribbon cutting. He also spent time today with Providence High School for their Day of Impact and toured LA Discovery Cube, as well as holding several constituent meetings. In recent weeks, he also attended an LA rally for the California Film and Tax Credit, Council members Adrien Nazarian's open house, and he took part in an LA delegation with Mayor Karen Bass to discuss preparation for the World Cup and for the Olympics that are coming underway. Just this past weekend, he also participated in tree planting efforts in Sunland, Tujunga, and I know he's been participating in that in Sherman Oaks as well. We're also planning several community events, so hopefully you guys are able to make your way out to those. Car seat safety installation in Glendale and community coffee chats with details to be provided later, so we'll definitely make sure you guys get that info. And our office is here to support folks, whether residents or businesses, right? So if you're dealing with state agency matters, feel free to contact our office. We're more than here to help. That's basically what we're here for, right? So I also left a couple of flyers in the back. They're gonna be these, as well as Nick Schultz's business card, always valuable. So make sure you grab that on your way out. And then just last little plug, finally, just stay in contact with us. And okay, there you go. I'm out of here.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Barry Worth-Gervin, and I'm the Director of Community Affairs for Supervisor Lindsey Horvath. And I'm really excited to introduce you tonight to Katie Abrams. She is our newest field deputy, and she's going to be working here in the Sherman Oaks community. And we are all about showing up for our community, so you're going to get to know her, and I think you're going to really enjoy working with her. So I wanted to introduce her and let you know that she's here for our community and looks forward to working with you. Do you want to say hello?
Awesome. Thank you, Barry. Do me a favor. Will you go to the end over there, because I need you after these guys are done.
I just want to say hi to everyone, and I know many people in this room have my contact info, but if you need it, find me. I will happily give out my phone number, my email, so happy to be here to support the community. Thanks for having us.
Okay, well, hi, everybody. I know you, you know me. We're all one big happy Sherman Oaks family, so I'll keep it very short. Yes, I am Sean Regan. Nice to be with you all again. Sorry I've been out. I had pneumonia in February, made it off my deathbed, and I'm glad to be back with you all. This is a sign of the times between fires and everything on the East Coast, as you can imagine. So, to that point, Congressman Sherman is in the district. Consider this our invitation to all of you and your networks that on April 26th, 2:30 p.m., we are hosting an in-person town hall at CSUN, the CSUN Arena. Please come on by. You can sign up on our website, but we're going to accommodate everybody that shows up regardless of whether they signed up or not. So it should be a good time, good opportunity to have a tete-a-tete with the boss directly. I will be there on bouncer duty, so I will hope to see as many of you as possible. Spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you. So, no, put it down. Come back up here, Barry. So Barry did the announcement on official business for Lindsey, but now turn around for a second, just do a quick turn. There you go. Now she's not on official business anymore. She's wearing her other hat. I hope it's okay. Okay, so she's not on working for the city now. I've known Barry for a long time. She was with Hertzberg's office. She's been with Lindsey's office. She kicks ass. She returns phone calls. If she doesn't know something, she says, I don't know, let me find out. And she figures it out and either gets somebody on the phone to take care of it or takes care of it herself. So we've known each other for 20 years. Okay. And she's awesome. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm embarrassing her is because about 30 days, maybe 45 days ago, she put her hat into the ring to run for CD3, for City Council. Why anybody would run for public office, I have no idea, but she is fantastic and we need people like her in office. She's honest, she works hard, she's not afraid to say no, she's willing to roll up her sleeves. So if you guys, have any questions for her, she comes to our meetings all the time. You see her all the time. Even if she's on official business, she'll turn around quickly and say she's not. No, she won't do that because she's very ethical. But anyway, I just wanted to, did you want to say anything wearing this hat? Grab that mic.
Thank you so much, Matt. I am here on official business tonight, but I do thank you for sharing. I've been coming to the community meetings for 20 years, and for me, it's all about giving back to the community, and I'm very excited to when you're called to serve in public service. And I believe in it with all my heart and all my being. And I just have to say a shout out to Joan, because that was actually the highlight for me so far, is to see people who've been in public service their whole life and giving back to the community in the way that you do. And I just think when it's in your blood, and you just really believe it. And so I believe in this work, and I'm really glad to be doing it and delivering for our community.
Awesome. Thank you, Barry. So if you guys, she'll be here through the meeting. So if you want to see her afterwards and you feel like helping her out, help her out. I just wanted to make one more, come on up. So last month, Taylene is here from City Councilman Rahman's office. I asked Taylene not to come up to the microphone and give a speech or give the rundown on what Nithia's office, as far as a concert in the park or these different types of things that's going on, until we have a seat at the table, until we can actually talk about some real meat and potato types of things. But Taylene is still here, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. So Taylene is here. If you want to say hello, and she brought her cute little dog. Love that dog. So Council Representative is here, folks. I just wanted to acknowledge that she is here, okay? But it's me who asked, not for the, okay? Thank you very much. How are you?
A lot of things. How are you?
You have had a very, very busy start of the year. I want to give you your time, and then we've got a handful of questions that have come from the audience. But I want to thank you. You've really stepped up to the plate with the fires and everything else that's going on with the city as far as the homeless funding. You've had quite a last few months. So, but watching you on the news, listening to you, reading what you've been doing, you are one of those folks that have really stepped up to the plate recently. You have in the past as well, and that's what, that's, I guess, who you are. But tell us who you are. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us, you've got the microphone. I'm going to sit here and listen.
All right, I'm going to follow your lead though, but I'll take your lead and make a little bit of an intro. I am really thrilled to be here with you tonight. My name is Lindsey Horvath. I am honored to serve as your 3rd District Supervisor for Los Angeles County. Our district is roughly the West Side and the Valley. I represent more than 2 million people in our district, and it has been an incredibly challenging start to a year. I learned when I came into office that this district is the most disaster-prone district of any county in the entire country. So emergency preparedness is a way of life for all of our residents, and I know that each and every community is very concerned about how to stay safe, how to stay alert, and what our local governments, both our city and our county, are doing to invest in making sure that we're keeping you safe and addressing the realities that we're facing. And so leading up to the fires, we had hosted a number of emergency preparedness trainings. We've hosted them in cities that are not Los Angeles. We've hosted them in Los Angeles. We've hosted them all throughout the district. And because as we saw, these fires have impacted all of us. And even if you didn't live in the impacted area of the fire burn footprint, you have felt the impact. And so it has been an incredibly challenging start to the year. But we also know that a lot of good work is being done to support people through this very difficult time in our recovery process. When the fires broke out, we had, of course, prepared on the county side. We opened up our emergency operations center in advance of the fires ever breaking out. We worked with the state to deploy resources throughout the region, and yet we were still challenged based on the magnitude of what we experienced. And so the county is doing an after-action report to comprehensively look at how do we learn from this experience, what went well, and what do we need to do better to make sure that we continue to protect and serve our communities to the best of our ability. And that process happened in a way after Woolsey, and because of that, the county had a lot of lessons learned which informed how we showed up this time. And so we need to continue to improve our service because that's how we keep you safe. So we're continuing to invest in that work. Happy to talk a lot about that if you have any questions. The county has been leading the debris removal process in coordination with the state and federal partners. We have led the swiftest and safest debris removal process in history. We moved through phase 1 within 30 days. You may recall when we first were announcing what was going on, we thought it might take up to 6 months. Got it down to 30 days, and now we're hearing from U.S. Army Corps that, for example, they expect to have Malibu phase 2 completed potentially by the end of May, when we originally heard that it might take an additional 18 months. So we are moving at lightning speed. We are investing in resources to make sure that we are protecting our communities, because that debris being out and uncontrolled is a danger to us all. And so we are working in a collaborative fashion, but also to make sure that we are addressing all of the complicated facets of cleanup. We have some difficult properties on the coastline, which has created issues on the PCH and then creates issues, traffic impacts throughout the region. So we are doing all that we can to address that, and I'm sure we'll get into that in the questions. We also have been challenged, in my opinion, for far too long on the issue of homelessness. And it was one of the reasons why I decided to run for this seat, because I saw that the system was just simply not working. And when I got elected, I was of two minds. I could either come in saying, day one, LAHSA's got to go, we're going to blow up the whole system and do something different, or I could put myself at the table and really try to get into the guts of how this whole thing works. And so I did the latter, because I thought it was important to learn and understand what was working, what wasn't, and how it came to be. So if we made changes, we didn't make the same mistakes over and over again. After spending 2 years on the LAHSA Commission, I saw up close the dysfunction, the structural dysfunction of the system. And I heard from countless people who had been serving in roles longer than I ever had about the challenges that they face just simply trying to navigate the system. And with the number of years that we have been challenged by this homelessness crisis, we should all know by now who we can call, what kind of response is going to show up, and how we deploy these resources in a meaningful way. And that is not what's happening. We've continued to invest, we've created more bodies and more appointed groups, and yet it feels like it's gotten worse and not better. And then last year, we, in partnership with my colleague on the board, Supervisor Barger, who also appointed herself to the LAHSA Commission for a period of time, we were sitting, together at that table, and when we saw there were changes that were happening inside the organization, we sort of called the question and said, I think it's time to do an audit, because if we're going to make these changes at the leadership level, let's create a blueprint for what needs to change immediately when leadership changes. But what we saw in the audit was pretty alarming. And we saw that some things that had come out in an audit many years prior still had not been addressed. And it, to me, signaled a fundamental structural inefficiency and ineffectiveness of how this was created. Now, let us remember, LAHSA isn't just sort of a happy coming together of the city and county. The city sued the county because there was not sufficient service provision. Sound familiar? And so, as a result, LAHSA was created to solve that problem, and yet here we are. And so I know that there has been discussion around lawsuits and what that might mean. And for my part, lawsuits aren't the answer to this. The answer is electing people who want to roll up their sleeves and actually want to do this work. We cannot continue to point fingers at each other and not fundamentally change our structure, and then expect that something different is going to happen. So what we have done is said, we cannot continue this way. And so last fall, we gave direction to our staff in the county to clean up our own backyard, because the county is not perfect in this either. So we gave direction to study exactly how we would stand up a consolidated department inside the county. Now, right now, homeless service provision exists across 14 different departments in the county. So if you wonder why it's challenging to get anything done, try getting something done with 14 departments at the same time. So we said, enough's enough, that's too much, we've got to consolidate it and make it make sense. So we got a report back that outlined, how do we get this done? And so we said, it's time for us to do this work. And we saw the results of the audit in working with our auditor controller. And so we are standing up this department with the lessons learned from the audit. And the cornerstone of this department is a program called Housing for Health that the county operates, and actually has been operating for more than a decade. It has this greatest of any program in all of Los Angeles County, city or county. It has the greatest track record of getting people off the streets, wrapped with services, and keeping them off the streets. So they're not just cycling through, they're not just being shuffled from one neighborhood to the next. And it's because they have been given the flexibility to do what needs to be done to solve the problem. These are not rocket science ideas. This is what we've been clamoring for so many years. So that's what the county has empowered this new department to do. We have given a timeline of up to a year for that consolidation process to happen. For me, that was a little long in the tooth, but for other people, a year was, because we've seen how governmental processes can just kind of languish forever. People wanted a little bit more time. Rest assured, I am a very impatient person, so I will not be resting on my laurels through this process. We have to make this change happen, most importantly, because we have to deliver for the people on our streets who don't deserve to be dying on our streets. 7 people a day are dying on our streets, and that is fundamentally unacceptable. So the second component of what we did is we said that the investment in LAHSA cannot continue. And the county is taking those dollars, which you just invested through Measure A, the dollars that our our taxpayers are paying and are entrusting us with to provide services and housing, and you've asked for that kind of accountability, we are taking that call seriously. And we're saying we're not going to continue to fund a situation that is not working. We're going to bring those dollars back into the county department and serve the region with those dollars. So we're not paying overhead to every single service provider. One of the unique things about Housing for Health is they actually do a lot of the administration, so the service providers just do the service. So that means fewer dollars spent on administration and overhead, more dollars spent on service provision, and all of that being under one umbrella, it's easier to track, be transparent, and hold accountable what is working and what isn't. So we actually see results on our streets. Instead of measuring our success by how much money we've raised and spent, we need to be evaluating our success on what we're seeing in our neighborhoods and the change that is long overdue. And so for me, that's really what's driving this fundamental change. And I know that change is hard, but I also know that we're all sick and tired of the status quo. So if we just let that continue, if we're afraid to take bold steps that we know need to happen to make this change, then shame on us. That's not why you sent me to this seat. And so that's the work that I'm doing to make sure that we are holding the county accountable, that we are calling the question on what is happening with LAHSA or what isn't happening with LAHSA, and to make sure that we are actually doing the thing you want us to do with your dollars, is delivering the results in your neighborhood that you deserve. So we are standing up a department that will be informed by what your experience has been, and we invite you into that conversation as we stand it up. But starting July 1st, that department will be launched, so we're not wasting any time to get it going, and then over a period of time, we'll be both consolidating the work of our various departments and making sure that we are scaling back what role LAHSA plays, and calling the question and holding ourselves accountable, because that's what should have been done a long time ago. We're also, in light of the fires, but in light of all of the experience that we've been seeing in our challenged economy, we've been investing in our small business owners who have really been through a lot. For those who have been impacted by the wildfires, we've stood up a specific fund where small business owners are able to access funds to support them. And we also stood up a separate fund for workers in those businesses, because we know that not only are the businesses themselves impacted, but the people who were doing that work all throughout the county, we know they don't just live right in those neighborhoods. Everybody needed that help and support. So we've stood up direct relief for small businesses, and we've worked with partners in philanthropy, and I'm grateful for those who have stepped up. We've also launched a small business permit express program to cut red tape at the county. There's plenty of it. It makes me crazy, and so I'm making sure that we're doing what we can, and meeting with different industries as well. I've heard from our hospitality industry and restaurants the challenges that they've been facing. I've been meeting with our entertainment community members and what challenges they've been facing. I know at Metro, we've also stood up, finally, we led the effort. I did a motion to stand up permanently a business interruption fund, because we know that the impacts of construction can be devastating to our small businesses. Even though we know that transit is supposed to be a good thing for our communities, we need to make sure that we're supporting our businesses through that process. So we've also stood up a business interruption fund for Topanga community while they have been impacted. Right now there are 9 landslides that Caltrans is addressing with us. And so please support our small businesses. They're fighting to stay alive. And I know that you love these communities too. So help support them. When you think about where, the next gift you want to buy or the next thing you want to invest in, think about our local businesses, because that really makes a difference. Finally, and then I'll go wherever you want to go in this conversation. I was at Metro today. I know it's Bob's favorite topic. I brought a Metro pen for you as a little souvenir. I believe that our work at Metro needs to be more transparent and accountable, which I know, Bob, you have been leading on, and I know we've been having conversations about that for many years now. Just today, I was in one of my committee meetings where I pushed Metro to be transparent about some of the recent neighborhood meetings that were canceled, because I know, I found out sort of at the same time that you did. We found out on social media and got a call, hey, what's going on with this? We asked the question publicly, why were they canceled? And what are you going to do about it to bring them back? And so they shared that, because of the size and scope of the project, they want to make sure that the information is easy for people to digest. I get that. But we also have been at this a long time, and people need to have those meetings in order to actually access the information. And so they committed that in about, what was said was about a month or so, and I said that "or so" part makes me a little nervous, but we're looking at about a month. Those meetings will come back on schedule, so that way we can have these conversations and get more detail for you about what is being proposed, so you can be informed about what is planned, and you're able to inform what should be planned, because this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us to look at transportation investment in our community. Last year, prior to all of that, I authored a motion to be more transparent about our public participation process, and I will remain committed to that because your input matters. I know we might not always agree on every issue or every outcome, but being part of that conversation is critical, and making sure that that you get access to the information you need to make an informed decision. That's the only way we can be doing this. It's how we build trust, and it's how we improve our communities together. So I really appreciate the invitation to be here with you tonight. I'm happy to take all your questions and most importantly, hear how we can show up for you, because I know just even if you didn't lose your home in the fires, even if you didn't lose your business or your job, all of Los Angeles is feeling this right now. Our hearts are heavy. There's a lot weighing on us, and I just hear from people all the time just how much people are suffering and how hard it is. It just feels like life is hard to just get through day to day, even if you're doing the same things that you were doing 10 years ago. And so I'm really sensitive to that, especially for our young people who are struggling with a lot of mental health challenges as a result of all of these crises. And, whether it's formally through our Department of Mental Health or just informally by showing up and being present for you, I know that more than ever we need each other right now. And so I really appreciate this opportunity to be here, to hear directly from you, and to hear what kind of partner you need the county to be at a time like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you covered all the questions that we have. So,
all right, I'm out.
No. So most of the questions are on homeless, and I'll get into that in a second. But I just want to, since you ended with Metro, I want to start with Metro.
Okay.
And one of the two questions you did answer, but Bob, and again, these aren't my questions. I do have one question later about homelessness, but that's my.
Okay.
But so Bob wanted to know. Metro promised that the Sepulveda Transit Corridor draft report should be released soon. As a Metro board member, you will soon decide on concept alternatives that will be built. There are 5 alternatives, but only one ruins Sherman Oaks and Van Nuys. That's alternative 4, with noisy elevated trains 30 feet above Sepulveda Boulevard for 5 miles. This is the only. Are you leaning toward any of those 5 right now? Can you make a comment on that?
I haven't decided. I haven't made a commitment to any of the alignments because I am actually listening to all of the community meetings. My team, Justin and Dylan and Norm, who's here tonight, are all making sure that we are monitoring all of the conversations that are happening. I simply can't imagine and above what you are describing and what we've talked about, that overhead rail that's proposed down Ventura, and it's
yeah. Okay. So, okay. I mean, it would be the only elevated train like that through the county. So hopefully, and again, the opposition is not just Sherman Oaks, it's Van Nuys, it's all the areas that would be affected by something like this when the alternative is.
And I will say a similar proposal came to the neighborhood where I live in West Hollywood, up San Vicente. And there was a lot of community concern about that as well. And so what I have committed to in all of the work that I have done in Metro is I'm not going to do something to somebody else's neighborhood that I wouldn't consider for my own. And so we have to have those conversations and be honest with each other about what realistic solutions look like.
Okay, thank you. So let's get into what most of the questions, and it's so sad because I was talking to Joan Pellico, how 10 years ago, our biggest complaint was fixing potholes in Sherman Oaks, and how I miss those days. I mean, give us more potholes, but just let's give our streets back as far as the homeless prices. It's horrible. But anyway, so the first question comes from Jody Francisco. Jody, were you here? There she is. Okay. So Jody leads the homeless count, is that right, in this area?
Yes.
In Sherman Oaks, and you have for
in
years.
In the Sepulveda Basin. She is fearless.
She's fantastic.
Yes.
So last month or the month before, she kind of went through the details of, I mean, it's great to say homelessness is down 5%. That's what the official or whatever the number is. We housed 1,300 people. What does that mean? The county and the city has raised billions of dollars to permanently house 1,300 people is a failure in most people's books. And the reality is that we see what's on the streets today. And so her numbers that she went over last time were completely different than what was actually reported. I mean, completely different. But her question is with respect to that the county has just put in a motion. They're divesting from LAHSA. What exactly does this mean in terms of the homeless services and the use of Measure A funding?
So Measure A did a few things, and I want to thank Jody once again. I know we've talked a lot about the shortcomings of the point-in-time count, of what has been showing up in your neighborhood. So I thank you for that, because I think we made some changes, especially in the Sepulveda Basin area, which is important, because we can't address problems we're not properly identifying and tracking and accounting for. So thank you for being relentless and making sure we get it right. Measure A does a few things. It continues investment in supportive services, which Measure H did, but Measure H didn't invest in housing. So while, yes, it was important to make sure that people were cared for, if we didn't give them a housing solution, that's a problem. So Measure A fixes that and now invests both in services and in a housing solution. And I was at the La Casa meeting earlier today. That's the new body created to provide those housing solutions. And there will be direct investment from that ballot measure, not only in creating new housing, but also, importantly, protecting people in the housing that they're already in. Because we know the most cost-effective thing that we can do to address this homelessness crisis is prevent people from falling into homelessness in the first place. And if we can help them when they just miss one paycheck and that means they're going to not be able to pay their rent, if we're able to make up that difference and keep somebody in housing, that's a solution. And we need to make sure that that option is on the table. But the third main component for me of Measure A that I think is very essential is the accountability piece. And there are direct provisions around what happens when people are not spending the dollars that are allocated to them in the appropriate way. So there is direct allocation from Measure A, which has never happened before, directly into your cities. We heard from cities that they didn't see enough of Measure H dollars showing up in their community. So now every single city is going to get a direct investment from the ballot measure. There's a percentage that just goes directly to cities to solve this problem. But also, if we see that the allocation that is going to cities is not being spent either appropriately or effectively or just not spent at all, there is a body called the Executive Committee on Regional Homeless Alignment. I'm on that too. And that body is empowered with the authority to say, you know what? You're not spending your money right. This community needs it. We're going to take it and we're going to invest it over here and we're going to get the job done. That kind of accountability didn't exist with Measure H. So now we have a body that in real time, as we are getting these reports to say what does or doesn't work, they have the authority to make those changes. And I think that's critical because we've seen that some neighborhoods are much more impacted than others. And so we have to make sure that we have the flexibility with that funding. You all give this money, and then we say, oh, our hands are tied, there are all these rules. We make the rules, so we have to change them to make sure that we're changing the outcomes. And that's what my expectation is with Measure A, and how that funding, taking it away from LAHSA and continuing to fund what hasn't worked, and instead investing it in a department that the cornerstone feature, as I mentioned, is a program that has the highest success rate of getting people off the streets. They have embraced the flexibility needed to do literally whatever it takes, working with people who are struggling with substance use issues, the most severe of mental health issues, and they're getting them off the streets and keeping them off the streets. That's what we want to see. I think that's what we should be funding, and that's what we will be doing with your Measure A dollars to hold ourselves accountable to what you called us to do.
So the smallest amount of unhoused people is the folks that you started talking about, the people who lost their job, don't have enough money. The biggest issue is the folks that have mental illness, the people that have drug addiction or alcohol addiction. That's the biggest group of people. Unfortunately, the people that you're talking about that are fresh on the streets, they get the lowest priority, as you know. They don't get the same amount of points because they haven't been on the street as long as some of these other folks.
And if I may interrupt you,
Sure.
one thing that really frustrated me also at LAHSA is, do you know that there is not a website, if you, for whatever reason, become unhoused and, your property owner sells your building and now you're being Ellis from your building, whatever it might be. There is not a website that you can go to that says, here are services and housing available for you. Everything that the county or the city provides is all gate-kept by a service provider. Yeah. So if you don't find a way to access somebody who then grants you that access, you can't do it for yourself.
It's gate-kept through the service provider or the council districts. They each have their allotment in their districts.
And imagine if we gave people agency and their ability to solve this problem for themselves.
So is that going to happen in your
Yes,
plan?
we are
Okay.
working on making sure that there's actually a portal where people can know where they can get services and support.
So because the biggest group is, like I said, what we were talking about before, the mentally ill, and the drug and alcohol abusers, they're not going. I don't care how many homes you build for them, I mean, how many doors you build. They're not going to go into permanent housing. They're not, and if they do, they'll destroy it. Okay, so it's not. We hear from folks. It's not good that we move these people. They have two choices. They either live on the streets or they live in the jails. You guys are the county providers, the largest mental health providers is our county jails right now as far as taking care of these people. But living on the streets is not an option. So there has to be a more humane approach, which is get them off the street, get them medical attention, get them critical attention. It's destroying our environment. The far left progressives, and again, I'm middle of the road Democrat, so I'm not a far righter, but they're talking about, well, we're not compassionate people. We are. We've all watched these people. They go to the bathroom on the streets. They go to the bathroom on the curbs. That's not sanitized. It doesn't go into the sewage treatment centers. It's going into our ocean. It's going into our ground supply. These people are walking across the street in the middle of the night. And they're endangering themselves. They're endangering us. And it's a constant. There's got to be a better approach. And in your short term, but your very active role in this, there's got to be a better solution that can happen quicker than what's happening right now, especially with all the money that you have access to.
Well, and what you're describing is just shameful. It's just shameful to all of us in terms of not providing the kind of service and support that people need. I'm going to push back a little bit on people won't be able to stay in housing. We've actually helped, and we've even heard testimony recently at the county from people who themselves have identified the kind of struggle they were in with substance use, with mental health, and what certain programs and supportive services have helped transform their lives. So I do think that happens, but what I think I hear you saying is just putting them in a house and hoping for the best isn't going to get there.
Correct.
And I agree with you
Correct.
on that.
And I'm being dramatic, but the reality is the amount of folks that you guys have claimed to put into permanent housing is very small.
There are more people going into permanent housing through the program that we are centering in the new county department than any other program that's existed. The greatest challenge is availability of housing. And so, we have to make sure that, in the way this works, our local governments, our city partners are who we're relying on to help us build that housing. We have to site places for people to be able to live, whether it's a housing unit in and of itself, or whether it is something that you're talking about, a more complex care site. They need to go somewhere. the county doesn't have a magical plot of land secret to only us that where we can take people and provide them that care. They have to be provided these services in our communities. And so we have to cite housing solutions of all kinds. And the county needs to show up with the services to make sure that when housing does come online, that it's actually effective in solving the problem. And I know that that's a frustration I've heard from my city council colleagues who have said that, you know, there have been housing solutions that they provided where services didn't show up right, and that's unacceptable. But we also have to make sure that we are creating more complex care sites. I don't know if I shared this the last time I was here, but one thing that I learned when I became supervisor, I didn't know this as a city council member. There is a federal limitation to the number of units when you are creating a mental health supportive service location. You can only create that kind of service 16 beds at a time. Right. And so if you think about the magnitude of the problem that we have, we're never going to solve it 16 beds at a time. So what the county has done is we've built sites, you know, we've used sites to the best of our ability and built them out. But then what we have to do to comply with that law is sign up different service providers to go to each location, which is crazy and wildly inefficient.
So we've known this. We talked to Karen Bass when she was running for mayor.
So you do know about it.
And her answer 4 years ago was, I know Washington, we know that issue, we'll get it taken care of. Nothing's been taken care of.
I agree with you. When I met with Secretary Becerra, this was something I flat out asked him directly. And he said that, I said, you know, why don't you just let us do a pilot project in Los Angeles County? You know us. He comes from LA. And what he said was that there was concern at the federal level that there would be abuses of such a system in places where people just want to warehouse people and kind of go back to the days of mental institutions.
But homelessness
and I think we have to get ourselves out of that binary, because I don't think those are the only two choices that we have.
Keep on him, because I think both sides of the aisle would agree that homelessness is nationwide. Unfortunately, Los Angeles leads the path, but
I will be honest in saying I don't have the inside track in this current administration, but I have spoken with people who do have a close relationship, and so for my part, there's a lot to call out about what's going on right now. But I also know that we cannot miss an opportunity to fix something that has been broken for too long. And so if this administration is going to be the one to fix it, I'm not afraid to ask them for that solution.
Okay. Well, but again, if the Democrats propose something like this on a tamed down version, I can only imagine what the other side would propose on a measure. But I'm just saying, if the Democratic leadership in Washington would propose a solution for mental health facilities, I think the right side, or the Republican side, would probably sign on to a version of that as well. It affects every neighborhood.
I mean, I pray every day that there's more people working together. But I will say, you know, in our own state, we have party alignment. And so we need to make sure that when we are in charge, we are showing what it means for us to be in charge. And I think that people have been frustrated with the status quo. There's a conversation happening in the world right now. Ezra Klein has, with his new book and the podcast and all the conversations he's having. And I mentioned this earlier today for those of you who might have seen me at UCLA. You know, we cannot continue to just allow bureaucracy to plot along and say, well, that's how government works. If government isn't working, we have the responsibility to change it. And it's on all of us to do that.
Okay, I'm going to give you a real easy, soft pitch.
Okay, I'm ready.
Don't believe me. Is Amalia or Andrew Chick here? No? Okay, they're probably on the Zoom. So these folks, really nice folks, they live over by Fulton and Riverside. There's an underpass over there. Mm-hmm. And here's a picture. They sent a nice little picture of this encampment that's been growing. And it grows and it grows and it grows. And they call the council office, and the council office doesn't either return phone calls or do anything about it. At the last meeting that we had our Heidi, our city attorney, and there's no cooperation. Her office can go out and do enforcement to remove encampments. The city attorney's office can. So if these folks cannot get a response from the council office, can your office help to remove encampments? Especially, hold on, there's another part that I completely missed, I'm sorry. These encampments are by 3 schools, not one, but 3 schools, One's an elementary school.
So the encampments are unacceptable wherever they are. And it is particularly concerning when they're by schools. But I just want to be clear about that, because I think that this notion that there are, acceptable places to shoo people it's not okay. That's not a solution to the problem. And I've been pretty outspoken about that. And not everybody loves my opinion about that, but I just don't think we can keep shuffling people around. I have worked with the council member who has also appointed herself to the executive committee that I referenced earlier. I know that she works on the housing and homeless, the committee at the city council. So I know this is an issue that is top of mind for her and of concern. And so I'm happy to help and make sure that that the services that are supposed to be showing up to address that are actually being delivered. Because I think part of the challenge is, and I've heard this from my city council colleagues, they call LAHSA, there's supposed to be that kind of response. If they don't have the right people, or they take too long, or any number of excuses that have been given for far too long. We just can't allow that anymore. And so that's where the kind of accountability that I want to see in the county department will be a different kind of service delivery model. And I am happy to talk with the council member about this issue.
So if they're not getting the response from the council office, they're okay to call your office?
You can always call our office.
Okay.
You can always call our office.
Thank you. They'll be happy to hear that. I'm sure they're on the Zoom call. Okay, thank you. Okay, Susan Collins, one more question on homeless. So Susan Collins, where are you? Okay. You what? Okay, I'm going to ask it.
He just wanted to shout you out. Hi, Susan. We're glad you're here.
LAHSA has had a long history of mismanagement and failures in accountability. Until just a few months ago, you were the chair of LAHSA Commission. Why did you wait until the findings of the court-ordered audit were made public to take actions that you now stand on the comment that Judge Carter said, LAHSA is us? Right. I'm sorry.
I did.
Yeah.
And I didn't wait for the Alliance audit. So that's
it's not my question, it's hers.
I understand. I didn't wait for that. In fact, I talked about the fact that I did a motion last year with Catherine Barger to initiate our own county audit based on what I was seeing. And I'm happy to share that information and what the results were, because audit after audit has shown wild inefficiencies. You're absolutely right, and I found it to be unacceptable. I also found it to be unacceptable that as chair of the LAHSA Commission, I had an expectation that our body would be able to give more directive authority over the ongoing operations of LAHSA. But in practice, what happens is because the city and the county are the primary funders of that agency, it's a joint powers authority, a JPA, and because of the funding sources that come into LAHSA, they are responsive to the direction of the elected officials who control those dollars coming into the agency. So there were a number of things that came up with LAHSA staff that never came to the attention of the commission. And that's unacceptable. I feel like that's absolutely not the way that things are supposed to work. So I share your frustration, and it's why I'm calling for this change. And it's why I did say that LAHSA is us, because the JPA was a settlement from a court settlement that required city and county to work together. So to pretend like it's some outside agency that has authority that we don't have, we gave it its authority. We appoint the people at that table. So I'm incredibly frustrated that it doesn't function more like a governing body, like the Board of Supervisors, like the City Council, like this new La Casa body, Metro Board. If something's going on at Metro, it's going to come to the Metro Board, and the staff has to be accountable. That's not what happens at the LAHSA Commission. It doesn't work that way. And we have asked LAHSA, outside of that court settlement, we have piled on them responsibilities that they were never designed to handle. And so at some point, you have to call the question and say, this doesn't work. We can't expect them to get out from under the hole that they were in. So I agree with you. It has gone on for far too long. As I said at the top, I chose to go in and understand what was broken about it, because I don't want to make those mistakes as we're standing up a new department. And you're right to be angry to see the inefficiencies and to see that your dollars are not being used in the ways that you want to see them in your neighborhood. I share that anger and frustration. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm happy to talk more with you about what you're seeing and how we can work together. Yeah.
Thank you. And I know you have a hard out at 8:30, so I'm going to, that's what your staff said.
Sure.
So I have a quick question, hopefully it can be a quick answer. No one's talking about what was the start of the Palisades fire? What was the cause?
So they are still documenting that, and it's actually being led by our federal partners. ATF has taken the formal lead in doing that assessment. We as a board have not been provided the final assessment. I know there's a lot of speculation.
There's a lot of speculation.
I'm not trying to be cagey. If I had a report to reference, I would tell you I have it, and I can't tell you what it says. I don't have a report that says here's what it is. They are still, because of the complexity, and I think the potential consequences that come from whatever that report shows, they are making sure that they are dotting every I and crossing every T.
What are the little rumors that you're hearing?
I've heard a lot. I've heard plenty. I hear, but I'm out there a lot, I hear a lot.
Okay,
so.
I won't go into that. Okay, we would love to know
Of course, that's why Supervisor Barger and I demanded an after action on everything that went on with the fires, because people deserve to know. The only way we have trust is if you answer those questions.
Yeah, and a lot of the folks that I'm hearing stuff from, and these aren't conspiracy people, is that it's homeless. It was a homeless encampment.
I've heard that one.
And that's why it's kind of being like, we don't want to talk about this. Anyway. Okay, I've got a couple other questions. Christy from Casa Vega, I'm going to actually have her ask the question because I couldn't ask it as well as she does. And then after that, I'm going to have Maria ask a question. And by the way, Casa Vega is our restaurant of the month next month. So yes, Christy.
Supervisor Horvath.
Yes.
Sherman Oaks and Valley residents have faced real challenges tied to DSA-aligned leadership, rising crime, small business and restaurant closures, and a lack of neighborhood-level focus. You've endorsed Councilmember Nithya Raman, who many feel have neglected the Valley, and you spoke at Ulysses Hernandez swearing in, both backed by the DSA. More recently, you endorsed a DSA challenger over our sitting city attorney. Yet you have taken more centrist steps, including defunding LAHSA, which many appreciate, including myself. Given that contrast, how should voters understand your values today? Is this a true shift in direction, or do you still align with the DSA movement that has contributed to so much of LA's dysfunction?
So I've actually never been a member of DSA. I've never attended any of their meetings. I wasn't even endorsed by DSA. So I know that there are people in the community who, for whom that is their primary base. That's their base of support. My work with people and my endorsements are based on the work that I have done with folks. And so in working with Councilmember Raman, as I mentioned earlier, she has been one of the most actively engaged members of the Los Angeles City Council with the county on solving the issue of homelessness and trying to work on the relationship between city and county. Now, that doesn't mean that what your experience is invalid. I just want to be very clear about that. I want you to know she has shown up more than any other city council member, at least to my office and to the county. And like I said, she did place herself on this body to make sure that she is doing that hands-on work. That doesn't mean it's good enough. And so we have to make sure that we are actually working with people who want to do the work together. I don't agree with her on everything. She's made very clear her concerns around our choice regarding loss of funds and standing up our department, and expressed concerns that it might mean that the city and county won't work together anymore. And I'm committed to making sure that continues to happen. There are some positions that I have taken that align with people who identify with the DSA movement. There are positions that I have very boldly taken that have nothing to do with the DSA movement. And I think people deserve to know directly from me the work that I'm doing. I'm not a product of any one particular label. I think what we need in local government is people who want to show up with practical solutions, who want to listen to all the different voices and work together to make sure that community is at the table. And I have heard that people are challenged by, being ideological, you have to meet all of these checklist things in order to get our vote. And sometimes I don't get those votes for that reason. There are stands that I have taken in the community that people are not happy with from a more progressive side. There are stands that I've taken that people are not happy with from a more conservative side. My job isn't to make sure that I'm following dogma. My job is to solve the problems. And so I really appreciate that you're willing to see that I'm not just one thing, that you're willing to talk with me about it and express what your concerns are so we can actually work on solving the problems together.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Maria?
Yeah, okay. So, you know, we're very supportive of transit, and we think it's very important that it's everywhere. But when bills like SB 79 show up, where they base it on the fact that there is a dedicated bus lane, like on Sepulveda, on Ventura Boulevard, we have a block that we have a dedicated bus lane, but any bus route that takes that dedicated lane, all of a sudden every bus stop generates a half-mile radius into neighborhoods where you can build 6-story apartments. We think that is so destructive, it makes people not want transit near them. And your voice sitting on Metro and talking about something like that and showing somebody like a Scott Wiener that this is really negative, it's not going to produce better support for transit. And do you see how this could be problematic and weaponizes bus stops all of a sudden?
Well, I think what is challenging and what we've seen from a lot of state legislation is when we propose one-size-fits-all solutions, there are always unintended consequences. I think that we do need to connect transit to housing and make sure that our communities are actually connected through transit, and there are important ways to do that. And when you do invest significantly in transit lines, you want to make sure that there's housing there to accommodate the housing crisis that we're facing and get people into that housing. But we also have to make sure that we're doing it thoughtfully and with your participation, which is why at the local level, I've been advocating for more transparency and engagement through Metro. It's why I've been also advocating at the county level to make sure that when we have regional plans, we are actually connecting communities through transit and not just kind of creating this intervention here or that intervention there, and not actually creating a connected system that actually gets people out of their cars, because I know a lot of people have expressed frustration. Well, if there's a bike lane in just this area and it doesn't really connect people, that's not a real transit solution. So we have to be serious about the solutions that we're actually providing, but we have to listen to people. I think a lot of times government shows up thinking that we have all of the answers, but the most important thing that we can do is listen to our communities and how we come up with solutions.
Can you as a supervisor actually indicate that you pose something like that to people in Sacramento that maybe need to hear your voice on this as well?
I've been pretty vocal when I've seen that there are one-size-fits-all solutions that aren't going to serve our communities. And I was just up in Sacramento talking with them about challenges we're facing in the county, challenges that we're seeing in a variety of areas. And I will make sure that people understand your concerns and are hearing from you exactly what it is you want to see in your community. Because I think that's how we create legislation that actually makes sense. And nothing gets served or solved by endless litigation. And that's, when we put ourselves on some of these paths, that's ultimately what happens too. We have to create solutions, and sometimes people want to solve that by passing legislation, and then things get tied up in the courts. And then not only did we not get that solution, but we didn't get any solution. That's unacceptable too.
All right. We covered most. We had a few questions that were more or less specific as far as not necessarily your office.
Mm-hmm.
I do want, if you want to take a couple minutes just to close, I really appreciate your passion and the job that you're doing, and appreciate you answering even the harder questions, and you always do. And you want to close with anything?
I just want to thank you. I really believe that this kind of opportunity for us to be in conversation with each other is where trust is built. It's how we actually solve problems that exist in your community, as I mentioned from the start. serve a district of more than 2 million, and I come from a very small city where neighborhood by neighborhood, I could walk the whole city and show up and see firsthand what people are experiencing. In this role, I rely so much more on community connections like this for us to be in conversation with each other. And so I really value when you trust me enough to tell me what's going on. I don't expect that everything's acceptable. In fact, usually when you're calling a government office, it's because something's not working right, and we want to show up and fix it. And so I appreciate when you give me the opportunity to do that. I appreciate when you work with my staff so we have the opportunity to do that. And even when we're having tough conversations, that we can work through that too. Because that's the only way we're going to fix the divide that we're experiencing in our communities, and we're going to begin some of the healing of what has not felt so great for people for far too long. So I really appreciate you inviting me here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And not just Barry, but your whole staff. Every time, I think I can speak on the entire board. Every interaction we've had with your staff has been great. So your staff selection was spot on.
I appreciate you saying that. I love my team. Thank you.
See you guys next week or next month.